one of our biggest downfalls as black people is the misunderstanding of anti-black racism, what it actually is, how it's expressed, and what it means today. Most people today are not going to call you the N-word. They're not going to express it through curse words and slurs or express extreme violence to show their hatred, but that doesn't mean that they're not anti-black. Most anti-black racism is expressed covertly, and today I will be breaking down white supremacists, anti-black people in general, and their microaggressive tactics that they use to subjugate, dominate, minimize, separate, isolate, trick, and colonize black people. Now, this happens to us in general as black people racially, meaning black Americans, Africans, Caribbeans, Jamaicans, Trinidadians, Haitians, even to a certain extent, Afro Latinos as well. And I mean actual Afro Latinos, not just white Hispanics who call themselves Afro Latinos. This video is about anti black racism, period, when it comes to as a race, but today I'll be talking about microaggressions that black Americans specifically deal with for the most part. Also, even though these microaggressions mainly come from white folks, which is who I'll mainly be touching on today, this anti-black racism also comes from Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, sadly, even those from our own racial group being Caribbeans and Africans, even our own ethnic group, which I will make a video on very soon this year. Microaggressions are not exclusive to white people. With that being said, let's get into these microaggressions. The first microaggression we'll be talking about today are compliments. Racist compliments are remarks that seem positive on the surface but have very racist assumptions and projections about black people and black Americans. And this can come in many forms, but I will talk about a few, starting with the "you look clean" compliment. For example, you cut your locks, you get a low buzz cut, and they'll comment on how you look much cleaner. Or if you're a man, you look so handsome now. You look much more handsome now that you have discarded one of the most famous black American hairstyles ever. I'm sure black women deal with it, especially when they straighten their hair, when they curl it to make it look more 3A, 3B-esque. You know, the whole curly Brazilian Hispanic texture that black women of today are chasing. Or just any manipulation of the hair to make it look less 4C. And they say that you look better, or I didn't know your hair was that long, to take a slight jab at black people's hair to imply that it doesn't grow, which is false because black people's hair does grow. It just doesn't grow like white people's hair, which our hair grows up and out, unlike theirs that grows just down. Then we have the "you're attractive for a black person" compliment. This for a man will be, "wow, you're so handsome," or "you're so attractive for a black guy." This doesn't really happen that much. It really happens to women with the famous "you're pretty for a black girl" comment. Saying "pretty for" is suggestion that your black beauty is an exception. You're the standard for unattractiveness, and taking a good little jab at our entire racial group to not only say that they look better, which is no problem because I think black people are better looking than any racial group. It's not just, "I don't think you look better than me." It's, "I look better than you and you're ugly," which is different than, "I just look better than you." Then we have the famous "you look just like blank," which could be a black celebrity or really just anybody. The caveat with this one is that you usually don't look like this person in the slightest. And the only thing similar is that you're both black. And they think all black people look the same, which is insane doing this to the most diverse racial group ever because black people are the original people. But I digress. Next, we have to talk about the God given talent compliment. This comment is usually made when a black person is strong, fast, or they're good at either dancing, rapping, or music, and playing sports, especially basketball and football. This comes from stereotypes that have been around for centuries that always painted black people as beasts who are only built for physicality and entertainment. Now, I'll talk about this in my future video on dog whistles. I will get into all of this, but it comes in many forms. God-given talent, it's genetic. I mean, he is black. When you start rapping or you're good at basketball or football, football, I say it all the time: he's a beast, he's not human, he's a dog. Or when people straight up say slave genetics, this is genetics from slavery, and so many other dog whistles that I'm not going to get into right now. I will in a future video. Remember that. And this can also be with black women as well, but it's mostly with black men when it comes to the God-given talent compliment. Now, this is extremely racist because it's implying that this is inherently what black people do, which undermines the hard work, the IQ, the skill, the training, the willpower, the talent, and the strategy that it takes for a black person, especially a black American, to dance, rap, or play basketball, which we put all three of those things on the map. And this also shows you their lack of care and superficial way of seeing black American people, black American culture, and black people in general as a race. We do these things because of culture, just like white people with hockey or Hispanics with soccer. It's not about genetics, it's about culture. But nobody ever says that it's about genetics when they do said things, showing you the unique anti black racism that we deal with every single day. The funny thing is, too, when you own a business, when you are an engineer, when you're a CEO, you're a pilot, this same person will not say anything about natural God given talent and genetics. It's only genetics and God given talent when you're in the NBA as a player. But if you try to own the NBA, there's no mention of God given talent. And that's because we've always been boiled down to who we are as a body and not who we are as a mind and who we are just as people. And the last racist compliment we'll talk about is the infamous, "You're so articulate, you're so smart. Oh my God, you're so intelligent. You're so well spoken." Now, this statement in general isn't racist on its own, but it's really just tone, the way it's said, and it's usually said with shock, belief, not admiration. It's not said as an acknowledgement of who you are. This is usually said when you can simply formulate a sentence, which the end result will see you as one of the good ones. And they will treat you different than other black people because they believe that it's unnatural, it's not right, or it's uncommon for black people to be professional, proper, etiquette, and have a good vocabulary or lexicon. You are seen as an exception to them, which this is racist because 9 times out of 10, they're not even basing this on experience. They're not even basing this on being around black people because racists usually have a handful. And when I say handful, I mean 5 at most of real interactions with black people. And I mean real interactions, not just small talk, not just, "Hey, how you doing?" Not just acquaintances, actual deep connections and interactions and moments with black people during their lifetime. They only have like a handful. They get most of their judgment from what they've been taught about black people through media. And trust me, we're going to talk about media later. Trust me. This also shows you how much they don't know black Americans and black people in general because most black Americans are not talking in these loud, over exaggerated versions of ebonics that they think and have come up with in their head. Most black Americans can articulate themselves, and code switching shows you that this is true. Some talk in ebonics, some are more standard English, some flip flop, and some combine the two. I kind of flip flop, I combine the two. Really just depends on who I'm around. But even the whole black criminal in the hood stereotype people are still smooth, stern talkers. I know there's been a narrative for centuries, and we're always taught and we think in our heads that white people are the standard of proper speech. But these folks are not these super articulate people. I mean, and when I say white people in this video, I really mean white Americans. Day one, 1775, white Americans, not the people who came after, not the white immigrants that call themselves American and we let them slide because white supremacy. You're white, you can do anything, say anything, you can be more American than a black person who has been here since 1775, which most black Americans have been when they got here in 1910 or maybe 1870 or 1970 or 2010. White people talk different. Some talk with amazing lexicon and diction. Some are articulate. Some not so much. Some not at all. But they can get away with being vulgar. They can get away with being straight up stupid or dumb. And they can get away with being inarticulate. Lots, and I mean lots, of white people are not articulate or well spoken at all. Lots of them cannot go one sentence without either cursing, stuttering, pausing, or saying But they're somehow the standard of articulation and what it means to talk proper. Absolute nonsense. The next microaggression we have to talk about are jokes. Humor, when it pertains to black Americans, usually boils down to the same repetitive things. For starters, comparing black people to animals, famously the monkey and gorilla. Black people being criminals and usually associating black crime only with stealing, murder, and robbing because they see black people as stealers, murderers, and robbers. Mocking our cultural names, fatherlessness, family dysfunction, single mothers, and how a black man can't take care of his kids. Fried chicken, Kool-Aid, and watermelon. Being poor, being broke, not being able to afford things, welfare, Section 8, EBT. You being dumb and uneducated, not knowing how to read, write, or spell, not being able to swim, slavery, lynchings, Jim Crow, police brutality, and the N word, which they use all these things based on you being black. Because if you weren't black, specifically a black American, they would never use these insults. We also have when people use ebonics for jokes to mostly mock our cadence, our language, phrases we say, and ways we communicate. Now, this has never and is never really framed as racism. It's not really seen as deeply racist because it really, really is racist. But it's not seen that way because 100% of the time when you check them on these jokes, they're going to say that it's a joke. This happens because racist humor is usually a test. A test for what? A test for what they really believe about you and to see where you stand on black empowerment. What level are you? They use jokes to figure out if you're the black friend, aka the friend, the boyfriend, the girlfriend that they can say racist shit around, the friend, the girlfriend, the boyfriend that they can be anti-black with, and they can then tokenize you when they get called out for being racist because my friend, boyfriend, girlfriend had no problem with it. They will also disguise it and call it different things like dark humor, trolling, or rage baiting to avoid being called racist, which is what you are. And mind you, I'm not one of those people who thinks every racist joke isn't funny. You can make jokes about race and be funny. Problem is that they always rely on this the most, and it's what they rely on first. I'll repeat that again. It's what they rely on most, and it's what they rely on first when it pertains to black people, which again, they don't do this with any other ethnic group or racial group. You can be funny without being racist, and people don't know how to joke around black people without it. And mind you, these jokes aren't even actually about you. They're not about me. They're not about individuals. This is about a whole group. These jokes are dehumanizing an entire group of people. It's not about just one person. Now, racist jokes really shows you how much they lack in comedy and how truly weak these people are. They do this because they have no wit, they have no character, no skills. They don't really have anything, especially when it comes to comedy. And these usually come out when you probably have made them insecure, whether it's your looks, your height, your intelligence, whatever it is. So when all else fails in an argument, a debate, a competition, or maybe y'all are roasting, joning, baking, frying each other, they will rely on racist jokes. It is inevitable. Third microaggression we'll be talking about is the need to control and assert dominance. Black people have an intense, and I mean intense, problem thinking that the system of anti-blackness and white supremacy ends with and is only about killing black folks. If they're not killing you, it's not racism. They're not enslaving you, it's not racism. They're not lynching you, it's not racist. But what we have to understand is that they don't really want to only kill us. They more so want a sense of control and domination over you, your identity, your nations, your countries, your continents, and your spaces. And we don't understand this because we're programmed and taught to only see anti-black racism through extreme violence, slavery, police brutality, KKK. That's all we see. So with this idea, you go around thinking that their goal is to just delete us and take us out. When no, it's more so about control rather than us not being here. You want to know how I know that this is a fact? Most chattel slaves were not killed. You were only dealt with in that manner when you couldn't be controlled. If you rebelled, you ran away, you showed any type of defiance, you were dealt with in that manner because slavery was meant to control you. In Jim Crow, they did not kill you. They want to control over your rights and your ability to build wealth. Only when you exercise those rights, aka you started a business, you empowered too many black people, you were able to vote, you got a job, or you became powerful in general, you then were hung. If they wanted to, they could have and would have taken us all out centuries ago, especially in America because we're a minority. We are about 10 to 15% of this population. And they clearly don't want us gone. They want to control you. And I need you to understand that. And they do this in so many ways that I could make a video on it alone. But I'm only going to talk about a few just for this section. And we could start with the mispronouncing, shortening, and renaming of our black American names. And not even just black Americans, because they do this with all black people. This has history, of course. Chattel slavery, everything comes back to it, where we were stripped of our African and native names and given European names to break our connection to our African or native roots, to deny our humanity, and to enforce the idea that our names are inferior, difficult, and hard. And our names weren't changed because our names, if you had an African name and you were a slave, you were Dobi Udabaya. The name's not actually difficult. It's because white people don't respect or like your name because you have a black name. They don't even hate your name. They just hate your name because it isn't a white name. AKA, it's an uncontrollable name. The name can't be controlled. It doesn't come from Europe. It's not a European name. So it's then deemed difficult to justify their hatred for your name. Now, this is very ironic because in literature class, history class, or in any lesson, no one ever finds it difficult to say names like Ulysses S. Grant or Benito Mussolini or Adolf Hitler. Our names as black people, period, but especially with black Americans, are apparently so complicated, which it isn't true at all. Just like how you learn a language, you put in effort to learn it. But in order to put the effort in, you have to respect it, which they don't respect you because you're black. And they don't feel you are worthy of said respect because you're black and you have a black name. Then we have the physical touch barrier where they feel the need to touch you or what you possess. This can be your hair, your back, your shoulders, your kids, your pen, shoes, clothes, groceries, anything that isn't theirs, and especially when they know that is yours, because they love to play psychological games, especially when it comes to the question, can I touch your hair? And most of the time, this is with no permission. Sometimes they'll just straight up touch your hair, or even be touching your hair and then ask, can I touch it when you're already touching the hair? And this is also ironic because even if it is a request, even if it is polite, it reinforces the idea that white features are the norm and black people are something to be discovered, that our features are strange or unusual. And this is hilarious because white people are a minority on earth. I know they call you a minority here and you want to view yourself as a people of color and minority to make you feel small. That's the whole point of the term anyway, which is to minimize you, make you feel like you are small and like you are powerless and that you are not the majority in the world. White people, not just in America, but across the globe, are the smallest and newest racial group to exist. So if anybody is exotic, out of the ordinary, unnatural, and whose features needs to be investigated, it is them. They literally have recessive genes, meaning the more you go back in time, the less white people you will see. There has never been a world without black people. There has been a world without white people. We just don't learn about that world because they need to tell you that life started with white Jesus and that world history only started when white people's existence started. These are the same people who would try to make you feel like your features are something to be discovered, and it's oh my god, your hair is so cool. Like it's new, like it's a museum, like it's a new art piece, like it's a zoo. Another means of control is through the N-word. Whether it's convos on who's allowed to say it, bringing it up, period, the media making memes out of it, and the overall just absolute obsession with the N-word. This microaggression mainly revolves around deceit and fake confusion about what the N-word means and represents. Everyone who isn't a black American has an obsession with the N-word, especially white people and Hispanics. Africans and Caribbeans too, Asians too, but especially Hispanics and white people. They want to force access to the N word, whether it's a with an A or with an ER. And they do this in many ways. The whole why can't I say it? They said it in the song lyric. Y'all say it. Why can't I say it? I have a black friend and he doesn't care that I said the N word. Do I get a pass? The N word pass. All these ways that they play around to justify saying the N word. This also occurs in memes where it'll be like Jeopardy, the show, and it'll say bigger, but the B will be empty. So everything that'll be left is IGGR, and you gotta fill in the blank. Or where it'll be a meme, it'll say words that rhyme with bigger, and they'll say Tigger, trigger. Then it'll say, and then it's supposed to be funny, and then the video like cuts off or it cuts. Or it'll be the classroom attendance meme where it'll be like the teacher is giving roll call and one of the students will be named Fugen Nager or Bichaz Niga. And it's supposed to be funny because get it? The N word. Ha ha ha. This is a thing because there is power, culture, love, and history behind the N word. People are angry because we have something that we hold near and dear to our identity, community, and you can't steal it without pushback. And I want you to really think about this, right? They can steal inventions, they can steal our culture. Famously today, music and fashion, definitely. You could even take out a black person, you can shoot a black person, you could kill a black person, and it won't be taken serious and will somehow still be justified or defended, or they'll find a way around it. But the N word is straight up the one thing that nobody can justify or deny that it's actually racism because it's literally a racist slur. And it's really specifically for black Americans. And we know this because if you call a Caribbean or an African a NIGGR, they're going to say that they're not us, being I'm not a black American, especially the ones who aren't in America and leeching off black American culture every day, especially the non American citizen Caribbeans and Africans. They're going to say, I'm not a N word, meaning I'm not a black American, because that's who everyone really sees the N word and associates it with. Really, non black Americans, period, love to use the N word to ultimately have power, really perceived power over black people in their minds. It makes them feel strong and superior knowing they can change the course of your day, get you out of your element, and control you emotionally over something that's culturally near and dear to your heart. They also do this to just steal culture. It's just another thing to steal, part of black American culture, just stealing casually and feeling like they own you when you let them say it, when you're the black friend who lets them say the N word. And they are all, and when I say all, I mean racial groups and ethnicities, whether it's Asian, white, Hispanic, Latino, African, Caribbean, they all are ready to use it. They just don't say it out loud. They have it in their head, especially when you outsmart them, you outwit them, you outthink them, you outperform them, you dominate them, you one up them, or you beat them in any type of way. It's on their mind. They just don't say it. And one of the last main ways they try to control and dominate you is through buck breaking, aka homoeroticism. Buck breaking comes in two ways, mainly being control and humiliation. This is more so the control side, specifically sexual control, especially of black men. This is constantly expressed through homoeroticism, aka acting gay. Now, this also comes from history, whether we want to talk about the Arab slave trade when they would cut off our genitalia in Africa, or in chattel U.S. slavery in America when enslavers wanted to prove that even the strongest, the tallest, the biggest, the most handsome, and the most importantly, the most confident could be broken. Buck breaking was meant to destroy black people in general, but especially a black man's spirit and confidence. This was to humble him in front of his family, his wife, his community, and to suppress any thought of protection, defiance, or rebellion to other black people. Many white people, especially white men, and again, this can be everyone, Hispanic, Asian, any non black person, but there's a consistent pattern of homoerotic comedy as a way to play with black men's sexuality. This happens today with the infamous black man in dresses humiliation ritual, or the heavy promotion of LGBT in the black community, almost like it's a majority or even half of us, when it's like maybe 5% when it comes to those who identify as LGBT. Or today, when people say black men need to embrace their feminine side, false claims of toxic masculinity, and so many statements to say that black men, again, black men need to be feminine. Another example is how every mainstream black streamer, they all have homoerotic fan bases, and the whole streamer space period is full of people who thrive off of homoeroticism in their segments, their chats, their comment sections, etc. We could also talk about digital minstrelsy, mainly through clip pages, which most of these aren't black Americans running them, showing you the obsession that people have with us. I can't even explain how many black actors, artists, athletes, and streamers where the person is running a clip page and a majority of the clips are them trying to clip something that can be interpreted as gay or zesty. Lots of the popular actors, artists, athletes, streamers, the clips and things that they're trending for, lots of it is everyone trying to find some type of gayness in it. They do it all the time, and it's even worse now because they can use AI to make you kiss another man, or they'll use your voice to make you say something or do something gay that you would never say. And this is because people have always wanted to sexually control us, and by people, especially white men in this case, when it comes to homoerotic behavior, they've always had an insecurity comparing themselves to black men. So, in order to knock our masculinity down, they have to humiliate and sexually control us. And homoeroticism shows this to be true. The next microaggression we have to talk about is the need to humble black people. This is one of the most popular practices, which involves the ultra critique of really anything about you. This can be your facial expressions, your attitude, your body language, how you talk, how you walk, your learning style, your work, your job, your skill, and how you do it. Something you're selling, your product, your business, your personality, your confidence, your pace, your height, your build, how you eat, and many more critiques that they make about you because you're black and they hate you. And then when these don't work, they start to attack and critique the culture. For example, criticizing your speech patterns, especially when you're speaking in Ebonics, your accent, especially if you have a black American, Chicago, Baltimore, New York, Miami, Oakland, those type of accents, your hair texture or a hairstyle that is usually from the culture, braids, like mine, which these look amazing. About to take them out soon. Anything that isn't a hairstyle that white people can have, they will criticize it. Our hair accessories like a pick, a bonnet, a skull cap. The food we eat, for example, speaking down on fried chicken because it's too greasy and unhealthy, even though this person will be overweight, obese, and eats unhealthy any other time of the day. Now, of course, if you aren't sharp, this will sound like a stretch. But lots of the time, critiquing black people is usually just a disguise to be racist and a disguise to really try to humble black people and humble black culture without being seen as racist. Because nobody frames this as racism. Nobody says that humbling black people is racist. And there's one thing I also left out because I really want to dive into this one. Because the main way they try to humble us is by criticizing our names. Our names are and have been constantly mocked and seen as inferior by every race and ethnicity, not just white people. Everyone looks down on our names and sees our names as inferior. And it started because white folks were mad that black people were going away from their slave names when they were free, when they were becoming freedmen. And I say this all the time. They still view you as a slave. So whatever belief or ideal that you have, they still, just like in slavery, feel everything you believe in needs to come from them. And they feel offended that you have a name coming from your culture because they believe you're not supposed to have your own name, like Devontae or Janiyah, because I own you. I own your name and I own your kids. So you need to name them after me and my white culture. They feel you need to or should name your child Luke, Sarah, Bob, Sandy. This is what they mean when they're always making fun of names and over exaggerating, per usual. Names like Sharkeisha and Don Quavius, which nobody really even has these names because our black American names are more simple, like Trayvon or Letitia. And I need you to realize how deep this is. They want to psychologically destroy and break you down so much to the point where you are ashamed of your own name that comes from your culture that you created. And you created those names in response to their abuse and their hatred. That's the reason our names were a thing anyway. The reason the name Deshaun exists is because of their hatred. They want to insult your name. So in the future, you comply and adopt their names. So when you have your baby, you hear that voice in your head, and you hesitate on naming your kid Rashawn, Tashawn, LaShawn, Trashawn, Tayshawn, Layshawn, Trayshawn, Zayshawn. Or if you're African, you don't name your kid Dabo Diobaya. You instead name him Tom. That's the whole point. It's psychological. But of course, because it isn't the KKK, it isn't police brutality, and it isn't the N word, we just don't see this as racist for some reason. The next way anti black people try to humble you is through tone policing. This is when they become the enforcer of what it means to be angry, aggressive, loud, or difficult. And they accuse black people of these things when they're usually not, and are more so just passionate or frustrated. Usually, when non black people accuse black people of being emotional, aggressive, angry, mean, difficult, it's usually over exaggerated and is a lie. Whether it's a Karen who is telling your manager or the police lies, or someone at your job reporting you to HR, it's all to frame you and your entire racial group a certain way so black people hesitate and think about their emotions before expressing them, aka having control over your mind so you suppress your passion and you remain smiley, quiet, compliant, docile, and agreeable. The next way to humble black people is through what I call the cocky to arrogant pipeline, where your confidence is always mistaken for arrogance. This happens when you simply think for yourself and you give any white or non-black person a vibe that y'all are equal. When you exercise any right that they do, and you do something that they feel you shouldn't be doing because you are black and inferior. Why are you exercising your rights? This is all based on the idea that if you are black and smarter, wiser, you outwit them, you are more successful than them, you're more attractive than any non-black person, especially a white person, you need to make sure that you don't show it or you don't speak about it, aka don't brag, because you're not really supposed to do well. And they feel that you're ungrateful and you're privileged because you aren't a slave. So be grateful and be humble that you even get a penny, that you even get a job opportunity. So if you get more than a penny, you need to be humble. Don't brag, which really means don't do well, don't be successful, and black at the same time. And if you do, just be quiet. Don't say anything about it because the white man or woman will not be happy. You know, they might not have a happy family. They might not have a nice car. They might not be as attractive as you. They might not be better than you at said thing and they'll be upset. So you need to keep your happiness, your success on the low. Anytime you show any type of confidence, especially against a non-black person, you will 100% be thrown into the arrogant category. It is inevitable. It's going to happen. They could be one level below or one level above you. But regardless, you need to be humble, even though they can be confident, assert authority, correct, and outperform you without being humble. Now, this is already hypocritical and clear racism. They can be arrogant, they can be confident, they can be downright assholes. Nobody says anything. That's already bad enough. This is hilarious because these are the same people who claim black people are privileged in DEI hires. The same person who calls a black person arrogant and cocky, they call black people privileged. DEI hires, right? Stay there. Pay attention. When you achieve with credentials and willpower, you're cocky, you're arrogant, and you need to be humbled. When you achieve with no credentials or willpower, you're still cocky, arrogant, and need to be humbled, which is why they call you a DI hire, an industry plant. Privileged. Confident to arrogant pipeline is pure racism at its finest. Because your confidence, authority, and you outperforming, especially white people, triggers the racial hierarchy that says that white, those close to white, and even within blackness, being the idea that lighter skin is better than dark, your confidence triggers this hierarchy. So you need to be humble before we make up false narratives about you, blackball you, arrest you, falsely accuse you, destroy your image, and if none of those work, then we got the general undermining of your power, authority, position, and confidence that works out in little ways. Whether it's writing you up in school or at work, calling the police or arresting you, firing, suspending, or trying to give some type of disciplinary action. Now, I'm not saying black people can do anything and shouldn't be disciplined or punished for anything. This isn't racist in general, but in most cases, when it comes to disciplining black people, it's usually for something that doesn't call for it. Any type of punishment that black people deal with is usually uncalled for, and it's usually not given the same energy with other groups of people. This is exactly why we lead in suspensions, exonerations, and higher sentences for doing the same thing that other races do. This also happens when black employees expose the harassment or discrimination in their field, or maybe you make a social media video about the Nolan Wells situation that just happened, or maybe you're like a Ryan Clark who chose to not speak against Angel Reese because we need to Great White Hope propaganda Caitlin Clark, and we need to shit on Angel Reese because she also went through the confident to arrogant pipeline because you were successful and you beat Caitlin Clark in college in 2022, 2023, and they have not lived that down, showing you how this stuff works. You make a video or a claim about racism at your job, and then they choose to terminate you, demote you, write you up, or maybe you're a YouTuber or a streamer, you're speaking out against white supremacy and they cut the sponsorships or they'll ban you. This also happens when you're in any position of power and they hesitate and find it hard to take an order from a black person because they don't respect your authority. Why don't they respect your authority? You're black. And if they do submit or do what you say, they have some type of sarcasm or humor or joke with it. More little things like making you the butt of the joke in 3-4 way conversations, interrupting you, in general, questioning your belonging, your merit, your credentials, your expertise, your degree, your intelligence. And lastly, the famous, do you work here? Question. Black people are always mistaken to be security, maintenance, and assistant, not the manager, not the owner, not the CEO, especially when you get into more high class, higher paying, and more professional settings. This is based on the assumption that black people do not occupy a high status position. And they're thinking this not because it's designed that way. They're thinking this because they believe that black people aren't fit for anything other than physicality, entertainment, or a low position. Then we have infantilization and the overall talking to you like a little boy or little girl thing that they do because they believe that they're white and they know better than you automatically. And no, this doesn't mean white people don't give good advice or you shouldn't take advice from them. But lots of the time when you're getting advice or recommendations, they don't see you as equal. They see you as a child and they feel that they know better because they're white or non-black. For example, you be talking about cameras and you want a camera, but they'll tell you don't get that camera and recommend something else disregarding what you said because I'm white and I say so. This can be with a car you want, a book you're reading, a diet you're starting or mastered, a business you're starting. They're always recommending something else. It's like contrarianism. Everything you do is not enough. Like what you're doing and what you say is invalid because you don't know what you're talking about because you're black. And mind you, you can know way more than them on cars, books, business, but the racism exposes itself because they already assume that you don't know. And again, they can potentially know better, and there's nothing wrong with taking advice from them or non-black people, period. But you have to be sharp with this stuff because it's all about tone. Because when they do this, they have an authoritarian tone to it, like you're going to do this, like you're going to do what I'm saying type of way. Most of the time, their recommendations and advice isn't even asked for. They give it to you anyway because they're already assuming that they have superior knowledge on a subject and you need their advice, even though you could be more experienced than them. And that's the point. They already assume that they know more. They don't ask you, do you know about this and this and this? They already assume you don't know. And then they tell you about this, and this. And the last way they try to humble you is through correcting. This is like the last point, but it's more so based on the need to correct you. Like when they always remind you if you mispronounce something, you spell something wrong, and they'll do it with their little sarcastic laugh so it doesn't sound aggressively racist. Because again, this video is called microaggressions. It could be a simple mistake you made, and they're very quick and very willing to check you on it. Let's say the time is 9:12, and someone asks, "What time is it?" You say it's 9:10, but it's actually 9:12. They don't have to even say anything, but they're gonna say, "Oh, nope, it's actually 9:12." Or you'll even say it's 9:13, and they'll say, "Nope, it's actually 9:12." Or you could say, "Wow, look at that lamb," and they'll say, "Well, actually, technically, it's a goat, cause lambs, blah 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 blah." Over explaining common sense because they assume that you don't know. And I'm not saying that you can't be corrected, but it's the intention with what they're doing. And it's to establish superiority and dominance amongst your dynamic. It's not genuine. It's not them actually trying to explain to you the difference between a lamb and a goat so you can know for the future. They don't actually care about telling you that it's 9:12. It's about superiority. It's about domination. It's about control. Or you'll say, "Man, that's a nice computer." And they say, "Well, technically it's a laptop." Or you'll say, "My favorite fruit is a tomato." And they say, "Well, technically it's a vegetable and not a fruit." And when they correct you, it's always with a laugh or it's with a smile because they know what they're doing. And again, it's called a microaggression for a reason. Or you could be placing something somewhere and they'll change it and fix it, even though it could be perfectly aligned into said space. All this is a very small tactic so they can feel superior and humble you at the same time. And these are only just a handful of ways they try to humble black people. And these happen the more attractive, the more rich, the more wise, the more in shape you are, the more articulate you are, the more intellectual you are, the more intelligent, the more strong, the more financially empowered, the more successful, and the more powerful you are, period. But especially when you have more than them. And they do it to all black people, but especially the men, especially black American men, because we're one of the only black groups in the world where we were at the inception of said country and we're a minority at the same time. And because men in general are the leaders of their community, they're the ones that boys, girls, and women follow. So they kind of have to humble you so you are a weak black man. Because if you think about it, a strong, good man attracts a good woman. That leads to a family. A family leads to more good men and women, meaning the kids. Others are inspired by that, and that leads to another family. That family inspires another family. Now you have a community. That leads to healthy, strong communities. But they have to cut that off. That's why they have to humble you. Because if you're humbled, if you're scared, you're less confident, you're not standing on black business, you can't do that. So they absolutely need to humble you because, again, you triggered, you broke, and you are shifting the white supremacist system that says white is on top, those close to white is on top, and lighter skin, even within blackness, is on top. And the last microaggression we'll be talking about today is nervous racism. Nervous racism comes in many subcategories, starting with avoidance. For example, crossing the other side of the street, going the other way, or walking in the street when seeing a black person. This also happens when people see a restaurant with black people in it and they refuse to go. They want to go eat somewhere else, or black people are at a pool or a bowling alley and they leave and go somewhere else. This also happens when people avoid their black neighbors. They're refusing to watch basketball, refusing to eat soul food, refusing to wear Jordans because they believe these things to be inferior solely because it's black. Or black interracial grandparents or great grandparents that don't take pride in or invite the interracial person around because they're half black. For example, someone who is black and Asian, someone who is black and white. Their Asian grandparents, their white grandparents don't invite them over to the whatever the equivalent is of a cookout. They don't take pride in them. They don't really claim them as their grandchild, especially if the person who is black and Asian, their parents or one of the parents has a sister and she has fully white or fully Asian kids. And let's say the grandparents, they have one grandkid that's fully Asian or fully white, and the other one is half white, half Asian. But they treat the half black one a little different. They don't invite them, they avoid them. The next form of nervous racism is tension. This is a little different from the last point because the first point was really about them avoiding your presence. Tension is more so about them reacting to your presence. And this can come in many forms: sweating, fidgeting, folding arms, looking everywhere, having hands in their pockets, dropping things, stuttering, or turning red. Also, things like clutching bags, locking doors, rolling up windows, or bringing personal belongings closer. Maybe you're driving Uber or you're in an Uber and the person driving is nervous and they're very, very tense. And I know this might sound like a stretch, but this happens a lot when you're behind them and they'll stop and let you rush by them and let you get in front of them because they're scared of having a black person behind them. And yes, even smiling, which lots of time is out of fear and nervousness, as well as the whole sorry, let me get out of your way. When they keep saying they're sorry for something that there's no need to be sorry about because it's just a natural reaction out of fear. They treat every interaction with a black person like they're about to be robbed or get eaten by a bear. And all these are based on your black presence. Not you actually doing anything, you're just existing. And yes, I completely understand that there's a difference between attraction, nervousness, overall general caution, and just plain up racism. Then we have suspicion, whether it's questioning the black people that just moved into the high income neighborhoods, especially, or a black person is at Whole Foods, any high end grocery store, farmers market, places with memberships, high class gyms with memberships, any professional setting, any exclusive place, any place with real power and money. Maybe you're a real estate agent, a doctor, a nurse, and any position of like real true importance and power, and everyone's just suspicious about you or suspicious about the black person. This also famously happens when black shoppers are monitored and watched, especially in gas stations and stores. I'm sure lots of black people have been through this, especially men. We all know what this is. Maybe you're the new black person in the neighborhood. Maybe you're sitting outside in the sun. Maybe you're at a beach. Maybe you're driving a nice car. Maybe you're eating at a nice restaurant. You're making a public video. You're vlogging. You're having a good time. You're reading. You're listening to music. You're outside chilling on your porch on the balcony of your own home, and you're still being watched. You're still seen as suspicious, even though you're sitting on the balcony of your own home. And this gets even worse when you're with other people and it's many of you. For example, too many black people are getting hired at a job, and too many really means more than two. Because more than two niggas at any professional setting means that there's too many. Because it's not supposed to be any at all. But we got to have a quota so we don't look racist. So we got to hire at least two, maybe three, to really, really look like we're not racist and we're socially accepting. Too many black people are doing good and happy at the same time. Maybe it's a Juneteenth event, a wedding, a cookout, or a family reunion. Family reunions usually are at parks. This suspicion especially happens when black people are in groups. And this suspicion when black people are in groups is based on white and non-black Americans, period. They are so used to seeing black people isolated and outnumbered, aka overpowered. And they're so used to an amount that can be controlled. Let's say there's 30 people at a job. They're used to it being, 3 to 5, maybe 10 black people, but they're never the majority. The people that do this aren't used to it because they're used to black people being outnumbered. So they feel suspicious when it's too many. And again, too many really means more than two. And they really get suspicious when they believe you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, which is really anything but suffering. They're always watching, me mugging, questioning, trying to figure you out, trying to see what's going on. What are you doing here? What were you doing? What do you plan to do? And they do this because you are black. And the last form of nervous racism is the need to protect. Now, of course, because they're protecting, it won't be seen as racist. Usually protecting kids and women, starting with kids and pets as well. You know, you'll be at a park or you'll be in the same lane in a grocery store with a white family, and they're all of a sudden holding their kid's hand or saying, "Come on, buddy, let's go." They're very protective of their children when black people come around. Or maybe their baby is running towards you and they hurry and run and grab the child, almost like the child is running into a moving bus or a train on a railroad, or like their child is walking into a chainsaw when you're just a black person existing, standing, not harming anybody. You haven't even said anything. And I think one of the easiest ways to see if someone is racist is how they treat their children around black people. Because people, and this especially happens with white and Asian people when it comes to this category, they try their best to keep their kids away from black people. Whether it's don't hang out with them, don't invite them to the house, don't bring them here, you're not gonna date one. I'm not even just talking about that. I'm really talking about like children. Even though lots of babies are drawn to black people, especially handsome black men and beautiful black women, they will literally be in awe. I go through it every day. But their parents, lots of the time, won't tell the baby to say hi. You know, the baby will want to smile at you, the baby will want to play, a high five, or just interaction in general. But their parents will say, "Let's go, buddy. Come on, man." Or do something. They'll do something. It don't matter what it is, but whatever they're doing is to keep the baby away from you. And I know this sounds like a stretch. I know it sounds like I'm stretching. If you're not, knowledgeable, you're ignorant, of course I'm gonna sound like a crazy to you. But trust me, I've seen it too many times with myself, and I've seen it too many times with strangers. This only happens with black people. I've never seen it happen to anybody else. And I'm not saying they should leave their kids with us. We're not entitled for kids to say hi. We're not entitled to their children. But it's a certain way that they protect their kids just because the babies are interacting with a black person that they would not do with a white person, with a Hispanic, with a Latino. Well, they might with them, especially with white and Asians. They will protect a little less. They're very comfortable. But when we come around, they're holding on to their kids, and it's racist, bro. That's what it is. It really, really is deeply, deeply racist. And lastly, the protection of their women against black people, especially against black men. We can see this through the obsession with, did she have sex with a black guy? Have you been with black guys? Now, this happens with women too, Did you mess with a black girl? Have you had sex with a black girl? But white men and really non-black American and non-black men, period, have a weird thing where they feel away only when their woman talks to, has a relationship with, and especially has sex with a black guy. But when a white dude has a relationship with, has a conversation with, or an Asian guy has a relationship, has sex with their woman or a woman that they're with, and they're asking about their past, they don't feel away. And it's so funny because this has history, like everything I said on this list. The KKK fed off of this narrative. The need to protect their white woman thing. I don't know if y'all know, but before we got to today's BBC and Snow Bunny, it used to be us being framed as rapists without the G, who can't control ourselves because we're sexual beasts, but because they're the real rapists without the G, they lead in it every year and nobody says anything because all we have to do is talk about black on black crime and black people committing crimes, even though grape without the G is a crime, but because white people lead in the crime, we don't talk about it. So the new narrative is, once you go black, you never go back. Meaning, a non-black woman, when she fucks a black dude, she's no longer pure. And she's really tainted, really dirty, and promiscuous because a black penis made her that way. That's what that means, if we really want to be honest. And mind you, I understand men of all races are protective of their women. In some cases, it could be racist. Some cases, it could not be. But there's a certain level of protection that goes from 0 to 100 when compared to a black man. And it's very disturbing. Very, very disturbing.